Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Stepping Up to the Plate. I'm your host, Michael Vega. So glad you could join us. Happy to be joined here on the dais by my main man, Al Prizzuti, on this exciting time in the air here. Fall football is here, and what a great time in New England. What a great time in Milton. A lot to discuss, and right off the top, we want to give a shout out to the Milton High football team for their impressive 42-14 win down at Scituate against the Scituate Sailors. Coach Steve Dembowski and the boys getting off to an impressive start with that win, showing, I guess, no drop-off from the offensive production that they had a year ago with Owen McHugh at the helm. This year, it's Patrick Miller taking over and got things rolling in the first quarter with a 15-yard touchdown pass to Ronan Salmon, the younger brother of Luke Salmon, and, of course, Aiden Rowley, who took over for Jack Finnegan on the kicking duties, converting the PAT, the first of 6 he had in the game to give Milton a 7-0 lead. And then, of course, Patrick Miller going off for a 30-yard touchdown run for a 14-0 lead. And that's followed by Luke Hartford, who has every bit the clone of Jack Finnegan, even wearing the same number, number 6. He went for a 42-yard touchdown to make it 21-0 right before the half. And then Luke Haley scoring for the Wildcats on an 8-yard interception return to make it 28-0. Then it was Hartford again on a second touchdown run of the game on a 16-yarder to make it 35-0. And then finally, Scituate answered, getting on the board to make it 35-7. But Nathan Ahuey answered with a 64-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to make it 42-7 and pretty much put the game out of reach for Scituate. The Wildcats to be congratulated, dominating at all phases of the game, offense, defense, and special teams. And now we'll come back to Brooks Field to host Framingham in a Bay State Conference affair on Thursday night. Be coming up right after the show here. And we hope everyone can get out there and show your pride, be loud and be proud for the Wildcats. So congratulations to Coach Steve Dembowski. And Al, we had some exciting action all the way from not only the high schools, colleges, and the pros as well. We'll get into that, but I was happy to see that my Texas Longhorns defeated Alabama down in Alabama by an impressive margin. Wow. 10 points. First time Nick Saban has ever lost a home game by that margin.
Yeah, well, I think that was the impressive piece, was how Texas really outplayed them the whole game, but how easily they scored against Alabama. And, like you say, Saban usually has that team ready to go from day one. Yeah. And defense is usually a big piece of what they do. But it's a good win for Texas. I mean, clearly. And here at home, just a little seg was to see Holy Cross, who's really not a powerhouse of a football team, playing against a BC team that I think has got some defensive issues and some issues going forward. I mean, this season. But it was a close game, and BC won.
And I'll tell you, Al, I was this close to picking Holy Cross in my Boston Globe picks. So I stuck with BC, as I've been wont to do. And they wound up, vindicating me in that regard. I think I went 8-2 this week in the picks. My only 2 losses might have been UMass and UConn. Yeah. But I went 9-1 in the picks in the first week, so I'm the leader in the clubhouse right now. I don't know what to do. I'm just spoiled by the riches here. Yeah. At any rate, though, looking to the pros, Al, obviously everyone was excited about the Patriots opener, the return of Tom Brady. It was wonderful to see the reception that he got, and I'm glad that Bob Kraft acknowledged that a halftime ceremony was giving short shrift to the career of this man, and that they were going to bring him back for a more, expansive, a more, grandiose celebration when he gets inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame. First ballot Hall of Famer, Unbelievable.
Well, they're doing it on June 12th, 6/12, for the number of Super Bowl victories, and 12 for his numbers. So, I mean, the symbolism is there.
Yeah.
What I was impressed with most, just in the having him there, was that he had his kids there.
Yeah.
And you can see that they, look up to him as a father.
Oh, for sure.
So that was good. In terms of the game, I think it pretty much came in terms of what I was expecting, in that the Patriots, think about this, gave up an interception and a fumble. 13 points, I think they missed the extra point on one, but 13 points. You take that 13 points away from Philadelphia, and the Patriots would have won the game.
They win going away.
And
you take away that 54-yard field goal at the end of the half.
He made that by another 5 yards. That could have been.
He had some leg on.
Yeah, the kid's got some leg. But
he had some leg.
The thing that was impressive for the Patriots, though, was that they didn't give up. They went down. I mean, at the end of the first half, I was saying, Jesus, they could lose this game, 45-0. They stayed with it. The defense was tough, and the offense came around in terms of Mac Jones. I mean, he hit some receivers. I thought one of the passes into the end zone, the kid made a nice catch.
Yes.
And he was right on the back line, and he still made the catch.
Yeah. And there were like one toe in from extending that series.
That was an interesting one, because you could see it right off the bat that he didn't get the second foot in.
No,
but
he didn't.
The ref called it as a catch. And it's amazing that how many times you see.
Well, he saw the toe drag, but he didn't see the toe land.
Well, he couldn't see the thing.
So,
but
I mean, in college, that is a catch.
Yeah.
And Keyshawn Boutte from LSU probably was thinking it was a catch, but you got to have two down in the NFL.
But
and I'll tell you what else. The thing that impressed me, though, two things impressed me. A was the offensive scheme that this team showed, and how well they operated, and how
against they were
efficient.
Yeah, against a pretty good defense.
Against a very good defense out. And not only that, I was very impressed by the offensive line. I mean, you think about it, they had to integrate two guys on the fly because they had two guys who were inactive that morning. And so those guys came in and played very well
in the second half
against that defensive line.
Against that defensive line, which is one of the best in football. I think all in all, they stepped back and said, they'd have to say, we did a good job. We could have won the game. And I felt bad for Elliott. He didn't fumble once last year. Not once.
No.
In the first play, he gets the ball, bingo. Fumble.
Yeah.
After an interception,
I'm excited by him and the prospect of him in this offense.
Oh, yeah. Well, you could see him even blocking. He did a pretty good job there. The interesting thing on the interception, this happens to Jones a lot, because at the start of the game, I don't know what it is, but he seems to throw high.
Yeah.
And those catches go up like this, and if they don't catch it, the guy behind him. You
understand how the elements too were at work here.
No, I understand, but he does it a lot, even in forgetting the elements. That's what he does, and the ball seems to go off the defender's hand. I mean, the catcher's hands into defender's hands for interceptions. But anyways, you know what? They're going to play Miami this week, and.
Miami looks to be the standard bearer, I think, in the division.
We'll see.
Because on Monday night, a seismic tremor kind of rippled through the AFC East and the NFL at large when the Jets had an unimaginable setback, losing their quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, 4 plays into his season. A total of 11 minutes elapsed on the clock. And Aaron Rodgers now done for the year with a ruptured Achilles, a left Achilles, and worst case scenario, maybe done for his career.
Yeah.
And Al, it's heartbreaking to see that. But as most people are overlooking, and I think Coach Robert Saleh is pointing out, they still beat the Bills.
Well, I mean,
that's came back without Aaron Rodgers.
That's the interesting thing about news.
Yeah.
The big news was Aaron Rodgers, and the rupture of the Achilles. I'm not sure I've heard all of the medical things. I've had a torn Achilles, and it is a very painful.
Just a tear? You didn't have a complete rupture?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you had a complete rupture. Okay.
And I was playing in the finals of a tournament, a racquetball tournament, incidentally, in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And I went back to the back wall to get the ball off the back wall, and boom! I thought somebody dropped something from upstairs that was watching on my leg.
On the back of your
It
leg?
almost feels like a shutter. You know?
Yes, Al. Very good description, because when you look at the replay, they showed it in slow motion.
Yeah.
And there were doctors out there who saw this and immediately knew it was an Achilles, because when you had the stress on the calf and the ankle was pressed forward, I guess it was pronated.
Yeah.
It put all that stress on the tendon, and it just ruptured it.
Wow.
And you could see it just roll up like a shutter, into his calf.
What was
so let
really
me ask you this: what did that feel like?
I mean, first of all, I went down.
Yeah.
I called a timeout, and I was limping, and I knew something was really bad. What was the worst part of it was in Rhode Island, and I was alone, and I had a stick shift.
Oh my gosh!
So I had to have use of both legs, which was very, very difficult.
Which one was it, your right or left?
It was my left. So that was my
you could
clutch.
still heel toe break.
So I
and
was
clutch.
doing on the gas pedal and going like this with my right foot, while my left foot actually pretty much was leaning up against the door. But it took me, well, I'm indifferent. I wasn't playing football like, for the season. It took me 9 months.
Wow.
Before it was good
How
enough.
much pain was it?
Oh, it's a brutal pain, because you can't walk, and if you do, you get like.
And then at what point did you start running?
Oh God, it took me a long time. What the difference is, though, that I didn't know what was wrong.
Yeah.
There was no doctor there.
Wow.
So I knew something. I thought maybe, geez, I was,
So how long afterwards did you?
Well, I drove from Rhode Island right to the hospital.
Wow.
Because I called my wife and said, meet me there. I went to the emergency room, and then they put me in. They said, oh, you tore your Achilles. So.
Oh wow.
But
They
anyway.
can tell because they can just feel right there. And
Well, they had to do. They did X-ray and MRI, all that
MRIs,
stuff.
yeah.
But what was interesting in that game, it was all Rodgers, and it should be. It's a great quarterback with probably career-ending thing. Was that the Jets were ahead with almost no time left to play, and the guy kicks a field goal that hits the crossbar and goes in. Now they're trailing by 1. They have a kickoff. The guy runs it back, and the Jets win.
Al, they had an otherworldly performance. And let me just say this. We get to know these teams in like the Hard Knocks series, and you grow fond of these guys. You establish a connection. And let me tell you something. The same thing that happened to me in the Detroit Lions. I love the Detroit Lions. I love Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
I fell in love with the New York Jets on that Monday night because I love their coach. I love some of those players. And just the range of emotions they put me through. I mean, and I'm not a fan like a diehard Jets fan, a long-suffering Jets fan, someone who's been through the worst of it and still continues to hope that one day they get back to the Super Bowl. That they looked at Aaron Rodgers as the second coming maybe of Joe Willie Namath. It's going to take him. And I just felt it all, Al. I really did. And at the end, the cathartic release that I had when I watched that kid, Xavier Gibson, run it back. And I said, this is karmic. They were owed this because they had so much taken from it, and they showed me a lot how they came back from that adversity, how they battled back, the defense, Jordan Whitehead, who's living in Josh Allen's head now, 3 interceptions. They took the ball away from the Bills when they needed it, and they converted.
Well,
Garrett Wilson, what an unbelievable catch he makes. I mean, it's just the sheer force of will. You know what? How can you not love that team? Really?
Well, what this shows me, though, is this is sports.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to win. I think it was Euclid or O'Brien last night on the Red Sox game said it's interesting that you can take the Red Sox and the Yankees and now spin this around and put the 2 worst teams during that era, Baltimore and Tampa, and now they're on top, and do the same thing with the NFL in the Eastern Division, which you had the Patriots and Buffalo. Now flip it, and you got Miami and the Jets.
Right.
So that's
And
what
they're
sports
coming.
is all about,
But
though.
there's some, I guess, question as to whether this unimaginable loss for the Jets, the loss of surefire Hall of Fame quarterback, how that's going to play out for the Patriots. Does this clear the path for them in the division? Because clearly, the Bills can be beaten. Clearly, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Still the best team in the division.
They're the man. You got to beat the man to be the man. So they're still the man. But the Jets have beaten them already.
Yeah.
Without the guy, without their man. Mm-hmm. And, Miami looks dangerous.
I just think
Miami looks dangerous.
I just think you can't make any judgments in a 16, 17, what is it, 16 to 17 game?
16 games.
16 game season off the first week.
No.
It never happens. That's why I thought Philadelphia might have been susceptible to a loss because you still don't know yet.
All right. So after week one, which teams in the AFC East feel good about themselves? The Miami Dolphins, without a doubt.
Yeah.
The New York Jets, absolutely. Mm-hmm. The Buffalo Bills, not so much.
No, see, I go a little
The Patriots, there's stuff to build on there.
Yeah. I think the Jets looked and said we were lucky to win.
But you know what though? They won.
No, but they won. But I don't think that they're looking saying now we got the team that's going to be up there and having.
Well, no, but it's a building block.
They lose their guy.
And I'll tell you who gains the most confidence out of it is Zach Wilson, that quarterback. The time he spent as Rodgers' understudy in training camp was valuable. Mm-hmm. And I think it helped bring him out of that deep, dark morass that he found himself at the end of his second year when he ceded the job to his backup. And they told him, look, just take the time off, get your head right. And he came back, got his head right. And you know what? He had a guy mentoring him, and he'll have that guy mentoring him for the remainder of the season.
So anyways, I mean, what's going to be interesting today I think the Scranton's playing the Woo Sox, aren't they? Oh, I'm sorry. That's the Yankees farm team playing the Woo Sox.
I was going to say, let's run down to Bowler Park.
God almighty. I mean, watching that team play, you almost hope that the season ends after the game.
I mean, it's just like, does Chaim Bloom come back? Do they bring him back?
Yeah. Oh, I think so. I think they've committed to the fact that he's stocked the minor league team.
All right. And I'll give you this. There's some exciting components down there. There's some exciting players coming up the ranks.
Yeah. Well.
I think Rafaela is one guy.
They're going to be a hitting team and a hitting ballpark.
Bello came up from the ranks.
But
we still got Marcelo Mayer.
Well, he's got some injury.
Casas is a guy that's already made his, I think, his mark.
I think they went from here, low end on the farm system, to not the high end, but right down of maybe 10,
But 11. When you look at the Orioles at the top right now, okay, they have 8 of the top 100 prospects in baseball America, and they're young.
Yeah.
And guess what, Al? They're built to win for the long haul. And I think that's what Chaim Bloom's trying to do here. But the problem is that he's running up against short-term expectations.
Well, the problem with Chaim Bloom's team right now, if you want to call it Chaim Bloom's team, and Cora, is that they've got all these young guys, Sox guys, and they got old pitchers.
Yes.
So, if you want to do this correctly, you stock with pitching. And the Red Sox are not doing that. They've always done this. They've always stocked with hitting, and they never win.
Yeah. And it's interesting to note that a lot of these high-priced pitchers right now are either on the injured list or shut it down.
Sale's done. Sale is done against the team that goes after him. If you step up to the plate and
swing away,
you're going to get him.
Yeah,
and especially at the start of a game, and and he has bad innings. Now Crawford come in last night. I don't know why Bush didn't go out there because he walked the first 2 batters.
Right.
He was throwing the ball at least 4 or 5 inches above the top zone.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he started to come down and he was getting the calls, but he wasn't going to get any of the calls.
No, he was trying to get a swing and a miss. It was clear. He was trying to get somebody to chase.
And they didn't lose by a lot, but they lost to the team that was in last place.
The problem is that you get You go 0 for 19 with runners in scoring position now.
Yeah, well,
I mean, how many times did they load the bases? How many times did they have guys standing on third base waiting to score?
No.
You know, I mean, it's like, I knew in that first game of this doubleheader that they got swept, that Verdugo was going to hit into a double play at the end with the bases loaded. I just knew it. So, at any rate, I'm done talking about them because I want to talk about another exciting event that's coming up, and that's the Ryder Cup. Al.
Well, before we get into the Ryder Cup, I think we got to mention a couple of things because it's very
U.S. Open
important.
tennis?
U.S. Open for
Yeah, so I was
two
gonna get
reasons.
that.
One, Coco Gauff,
Yes,
19
good,
years old,
good.
won on the women's side,
Yeah.
and beat Sabalenka.
Who was projected number one.
Well, she is still number one. They made her number one. But the thing with Sabalenka that's interesting is, you know, she had a lot of, I don't want to say emotional issues, but she had issues in terms of trying to figure out, if I get here and I don't win, and she didn't, will I ever get there? So she had a lot of doubts about her ability. Then all of a sudden she wins the Australian. She starts to climb the Everest, but she has a way of dropping down in key spots that really has to play on her ability to be a top player.
You really got to be mentally tough in that.
Well,
in that sport.
which is why
mentally
we
tough.
can say to probably the greatest player that ever played on the men's side. And I say this meaning he's Novak Djokovic. He's 36 years old. When you saw what Daniel Medvedev did to Alcaraz, and he beat him very easily, I thought. And then he comes in against Novak. Novak is a backboard. You can't get it by him, and neither can you get it by Medvedev. But what Novak is this: strong. Mentally strong, prepared.
I'll tell you though, I think about him playing maybe Jimmy Connors back in the day. What a great match that would have been. I mean, the fiery Connors,
John
McEnroe, you know, maybe someone like Borg, you know. Borg was machine-like, you know, and that's what I think.
Nobody's
I look at you know, Djokovic in the same kind of vein.
Look at Federer and Nadal, great
Federer's
players.
another guy, yeah.
I mean, they're all great players, don't get me wrong. And the only reason why I say Novak is because he's 36 years old. Nobody knows when he's going to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, he's won 24 majors. And I thought Daniel Medvedev said it best. He said, you know, I'm sitting here, this was afterwards when they were talking, he says, I've won one major. He's won 24.
Yeah,
he's only 27 years old,
right?
Medvedev, though. So I mean, the kid's a great player.
And then there's Alcaraz, who's won one
he's
too.
what,
you
20.
know,
and
he's got a couple. Didn't he win the Australian?
Alcaraz won the French, I believe. He won the not the U.S. Open, but he won the French.
Wimbledon.
Didn't he win Wimbledon?
Yeah.
So I mean, but the thing with Alcaraz though that's going to hurt him, and not that I'm the expert on tennis, but I watch it a lot, and I've watched it for years.
Yeah.
He wants to hit everything hard and just in the lines. So when he gets behind, he panics.
He's prone to making mistakes
because he doesn't know how to ease back. And if you watch Djokovic doesn't have the greatest serve. He's 128 to 132 miles an hour. The other kid's 148 to 150.
Oof. How do you touch that?
But what he does, though, on the second serve, he gets it in. Very seldom does he double.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The other kid still wants to go to the back line, and that costs him occasionally. But, and I was watching Medvedev in the match that he had with Alcaraz. Medvedev was almost on the back wall because he knew that serve was going to come in real hard.
Yeah.
And what really aggravated me about Medvedev, he didn't move up on the second serve because the kid still tries to hit it hard. So it's interesting to watch, and you know, strategy in those games. But
man, what a cauldron that is. You know, those guys were like playing in a cauldron, and they were like even in the semifinals, quarterfinals. You could see how
it's fun to
brutally
watch.
hot it was there.
And the Ryder Cup coming up is going to be interesting because they're playing on a course that's only 6,700 yards, that has a lot of traps. Okay, it's got some water, but traps. It was built by, designed by
Not die?
No. As a matter of fact, his son went over and redesigned it. But anyways, what's going to happen here is guys going to have to be, as they always have to be, straight.
Well, yeah, no doubt.
You know, and you get it into the rough in a lot of these places, and then it's match play. I mean, it's different.
Yeah, it is a different animal.
It's different, and I think that.
Who do you think is going to emerge on the U.S. side as a surprise?
Well, it's interesting because I think he put Justin Thomas on there, and I don't think Justin Thomas is playing well enough to be on there. He shouldn't be on there. But and what's his name's not playing? Reed, who's probably one of the best Ryder Cup match players ever.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, you get guys at 6,700 yards. You don't need a guy who's going to hit 400 yards like McIlroy. Maybe Spieth. Maybe. Maybe a guy like Cantlay who can putt.
I liked him last time. And then, you know, the guy that surprised me last time was Scheffler.
Yeah, well, Scheffler. I mean, these
Scheffler
guys
went up against John Rahm that last day, #1 in the world, and took him down.
Yeah.
And that was like huge for the U.S. side.
Playing match is a little different, and I think you got to be able to putt on these
surfaces.
Yeah, I mean, so I haven't seen the course. I did run through it on the internet just to see what it looked like. But 6,700 yards. I mean, these guys play 75.
75, yeah.
You know,
I mean,
so it'll be interesting to see because there's a lot of challenges, and it's a.
And I'm wondering how those practice
5-18.
rounds, which they're probably playing right now or have already played, because it starts up this weekend.
This weekend, yeah.
Unbelievable! Wow. I love Ryder Cup. I love it.
I do, and I'll tell you what I don't like
Okay.
about Ryder Cup. I don't like when the fans, if it's in the United States, boo like idiots because they're drinking. Is what I don't like that. These guys are playing, and they do that at the. They did it at the Open in tennis too.
It's more prevalent, you know, now that gambling is getting involved.
Well,
a lot of these guys show up. Oh, you cost me money on that missed putt. You know, and it's like.
To me, it's frustrating. It's like when you're listening to a golf match and a guy gets up on a par 5, 500 yards, tees the ball up, and some drunk from the stands yells, get in the hole. How the hell is he going to get in the hole?
Right.
On a drive.
It's
because he's
drunk and
spam. And
but
they do that in the Ryder too.
One little story here. I had the occasion to meet up with Ben Crenshaw one time over at Nishadak, and I was working on a story, and I was interviewing him. And when I was done, I said, "Ben, do you mind if I ask you something, just off the record?" He said, "Sure." I said, "When you held that press conference on Saturday at the Ryder Cup at the Country Club, you said you had a feeling. You had a feeling, and." The team was down, but no, you had a feeling. I said, "What was it that you were feeling?" I was hoping to get something out of him. He looks at me and says, "Mac, I just had a feeling." I'm like, okay, we'll go with that, you know. Yeah. But it was chilling because, you know, he did sense it. And I was so glad that he was a guy, Longhorn, who rallied the troops and got them together from like. You know, it could have been an embarrassing loss for the U.S. there on U.S. soil. So here's hoping that the U.S. team brings back the cup, you know, after winning it last time. And here's wishing the Milton Wildcats well here on their home opener. And so that's going to do it for us. Al, thank you very much for being here. And thank you for being here on Stepping Up to the Plate. We'll see you next time.